Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of Peep into Education. My name is Kylie Elizabeth, also known as the Virtuoso Educator. And on tonight's special episode, I have with me Gabriel Hannans, also known as the Indomitable Black Man. And I connected with Gabriel on Instagram, and he has some amazing content for parents, also for educators, and talks in a wild range of, again, parenting styles, talks about gentle parenting, gives you a lot of great tips and tricks and some free parenting resources on his platform. And so I'm really excited for Gabriel to share a little bit about himself and share his resources. And we're going to get into some conversation on his content that I really just connected with. So Gabriel, thank you again so much for joining me tonight. And I'll go ahead and give you some time to introduce yourself.
All right, thank you. My name is Gabriel, as you already just said, also known as the Indomitable Black Man. Don't ask me where I got the name from. I just did. Don't worry about it. I have almost 10 years of experience in the field of applied behavioral analysis as an RBT, Registered Behavioral Technician. I am also a seventh grade middle school teacher, and my degree is in exceptional student education, more commonly known as special education. I work with kids. I'm also a parent coach. I work with parents on how to work with their kids. And that's me in a nutshell.
Nice. Thank you so much. And so right now, you are in what city again? Remind me, I'm sorry, or what state?
I'm in Florida, Central Florida,
Oh,
where
Central Florida. Okay.
the sun shines and God doesn't pay attention.
We're going to come back to that in a little bit. Oh, I got a lot of questions for you. So Gabriel, again, has shared some great resources. And I thanked him so much earlier, again, for being in this role that he is in. It's super important. Special education, just working with our children at all capacities, but really, striving to understand them on emotional level is super important. And not a lot of people from that approach in working with children, let alone, applying these tips and tricks to your own children. So I'm very curious, how did we get from, and I read in your bio, one of your bios, you started off as babysitting to being an educator, right? And a parent consultant. So explain to me a little bit of your parenting, or not your parenting, excuse me, of your educational journey and how you got to this point today in your life.
I absolutely will, except my dog is barking
It's okay.
loudly. Give me just one moment.
No problem.
I love kids. I've always loved kids. And I have a really large family. Like, it's a lot of us.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of the grandkids that were younger than me will always come to me, and I will always babysit, or I always be taking them somewhere, doing something, playing with them, whatever. While the grown folk went off and did their own little thing, or the older teenagers did, whatever. So that was my life growing up. When I got to college, I was actually going to school for biomedical sciences. I wanted to work in infectious disease and oncology. And that was my plan. I was gonna do it. And then I became homeless. And when I was homeless, I was still in school trying to do the two, was not working well.
Yeah.
And I wound up working at my my church's private school as a Bible teacher. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. I love the kids. Matter of fact, I just saw them not too long ago. I always see them out and about, but I saw one who was very close to me yesterday. Had not seen her in a long time. I was super excited to see her, but we had such a lasting impression on each other, the kids towards me and me towards the kids. And
Right.
I took them to go see a musical, and my mentor at the time, who was also the theater professor, was just looking, and she was like, "Gabe, I always saw you as a teacher. I just need to let you know how proud I am. And I didn't want to tell you something to deter you from the path that you were on, but I always saw you as a teacher, and I think you'd be a great one."
Mm-hmm.
So I thought about it. She talked me into it, and I was like, all right, let me go ahead and change my degree. So I switched my degree to exceptional student education. And at that time, I started working. I had gotten let go from the teaching job, and I started working as a registered behavioral technician. And what that basically is I work with children who are on the spectrum or who have any sort of neurodivergency. And I work with them in helping them do things like wash, tie their shoes, put on clothes, cook, have social conversation, just things that humans do.
Yeah.
with the disclaimer, I did not practice abusive ABA therapy. I did not try to suppress any type of stimming or anything like that. I did not care, did not want to. That I'm here to help a person live
Yeah.
effectively in today's
Yeah.
society. So if people come in
Yeah.
the comments talking about oh, you're practicing abuse and ableism, I was not. I was
Thank you for
not. I'm
clarifying.
also very neurodivergent, just to clarify.
Mm.
But because I haven't recently. Um, as I worked as an RBT, I went and got my degree for ESE education, and here I am today. That's the whole story.
That's great story. And you've done this within the 10 years you shared with me earlier. So a lot of just different opportunities, I think, for you. And that was something that we kind of had similar as the theater, so working with children. And you made an interesting comment about how your teacher, didn't want to deter you away from the path that, you seemed happy in and that you were good at. But she did see that spark in you that you would be good, working with children. And I really commend her for that, because sometimes it's hard for us adults to not try to push people into their path
Right.
that we think that they should go into, especially our children. And I have one of my students that I talk frequently about. He went in the path of law enforcement, and I was just like, oh, I don't, okay, and as a Black man in the Black community, so I'm just like, oh yeah, Yoka, but he's so passionate, and he's into it. I'm not going to say anything, but I also too is like, you're so good with people, but in this capacity, this is a people job for him.
Yeah.
But kind of coming back to you, so it's really important, and I'm glad that you made that switch. And I know that's not hard in the middle of your schooling to kind of jump ship on that. So that's awesome that you switched over. And obviously you're doing great things because you have people that are supporting you. And not even just speaking from the amount of followers that you have, but just the content that you share, and even the strategies and your books and the resources that you have available, just to show your expertise and your knowledge and your approach into teaching and parenting. So again, just some really great things that you have going on. What I'm wondering, just from the teaching side, kind of going back, what are some of the roles that you have had as an educator? And I know you talked about 7th grade right now. So what does that look like?
So currently, I'm a 7th grade ELA teacher, English Language Arts. I don't like teaching ELA. I want to go back to ESE. I hate teaching English. It's so ambiguous and and the kids can't read, so it makes it even harder.
I
I don't
don't know
like
why I
it.
just laughed, but I'm so sorry. Briefly, ESC, please define that for our listeners.
Exceptional student education. So
Thank you.
exceptional not meaning like great, exceptional meaning there are exceptionalities that
Yes.
people have.
Yes. So, and it's not a good thing to laugh about it, right? I think sometimes a lot of things is like an inside joke between educators. Like, yeah, we're laughing, but really deep down inside, this is like so cringy and it's very sad. Honestly, we kind of touched base a tad bit earlier, but we're talking about there's a literacy crisis, right? Which in America, where now it's all over the news everywhere, just as of recently, because I think we're getting a lot of data back. But honestly, if you really sit back and think about it, it's not anything new. I think it's just now everybody's seeing we're at 4th grade testing or 3rd grade testing, depending on what state you're at, and you're seeing the after effects from COVID. And the fact of, even my 8-year-old, and I talked about this in a past podcast, is that he started school in kindergarten during COVID, and you're seeing the results of these kids' literacy skill or lack of, due to multiple transitions and multiple ways of learning, and those that are not like the greatest. So I know I'm not surprised. I'm sure you're not surprised. So teaching ELA, yeah, and even for me with my 5th grade, my daughter who's in 5th grade, she struggles herself, and as an educator who tries to educate, I can only do so much with her at home, but it's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
catch up that these kids are playing. Yeah. So what is your experience, I guess, a little bit with the literacy side, and, maybe what was a strategy that you found that was helpful for your kids, even if they're struggling?
If so I took the position because there aren't enough teachers in my state. There's 9,000 teacher openings, and that was actually the basis for the argument that I used to convince my district to include paid internships for seniors at my college, because there were
Nice.
none. So basically, they were picking and choosing, but they ain't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out. And so, because of that, there aren't enough teachers to train newer teachers like
Yeah.
myself when I stepped into this position that I was not trained to teach in this way. Am I
Mhm.
reading endorsed? Yes. Can I teach a child to read? 100%. I am by myself able to teach children who have exceptionalities like dyslexia, dyscalculia, and I have done so using
Mhm.
Orton Gillingham based curriculum. However, as a seventh grade teacher that's working in a public school that only has 50 minutes a day to teach a child,
Mm.
I cannot teach your child how to read and then also understand what they're reading and pull information from it. I don't have the time. So we've been seeing where a lot of these children have been falling behind. One of the running jokes that we have in my class is I'll say, sweetie, your attitude is up here, but your grades are down here. And I need you to balance those out. Either bring that attitude down or bring those grades up. And they'll say, oh, well, I
Mm.
have an A. Baby, that's not saying much because I've had to, full transparency, dumb a lot of that grading down because they cannot get there.
Yeah.
Then we also have it's like kicking a person when they're down.
Yeah.
You have curriculum that's all over the place.
Yeah.
Why are my students reading The Destructive Male that was written in the 1800s that they cannot understand? And you only give me about a week to teach from it.
Mm.
Rhetorical appeals, no less. So we're fighting a battle on multiple fronts, and the children are the ones who are losing. And if the children are losing when they get older, who really loses is all of society. So we have these
Yes.
students who cannot glean information from what they're reading because they can't read
Right.
effectively. And then two, they don't know how to comprehend what they're reading because they don't know how to read, which is nothing different than what happened in our grandparents' parents' lifetime.
Right.
But we should be farther along because the tools for literacy and the schools for skills for literacy they should have
Right.
multiplied, but we're seeing
Right.
that it hasn't.
Right.
And so we're
Yes.
seeing how this messes up effective communication, interpersonal relationships. It leads to things like disputes, conflicts, and I'm talking like fisticuffs, which
Yeah.
then leads to things like suspension, expulsion, which leads to more
Yeah.
lack of information. And you
Mhm.
see how it just snowballs? It
Yep.
perpetuates itself. So
Absolutely.
it's fighting an uphill battle
Yes. I
during an
listen.
avalanche.
Yes. I felt all of that. And sorry for those of you who did not just feel that emotion, I'm sorry. Like, you guys don't understand. Like, you're the ones that need to go into these classrooms and actually experience this for yourself, please. Like, I promise you, those of us who experienced this firsthand, definitely visualize that uphill battle and that avalanche. So you spoke so many good things. And so just so you know, when I'm looking down, I'm writing notes,
Yeah,
because
you're
I like
fine.
to refer back to things because you're just, again, sharing so much. And
That's good
you're
because I have ADHD and I will forget.
that's okay. That's okay. I do too. So I think you're completely right. I have spoken similar words of, literacy leads to a lot of things, like you just listed all of these things, and it does, right? It's a foundation, fundamental of everything that we're doing, and it's so key. And I do feel like, in a certain way, like, it's intentional, but like, why can we not play catch? Like, why are we not focused just on catch up? Like, I'm tired of listening to all of these other things. Get these kids in with physical books in their hands and sit down, make them read, make them learn phonics. If they don't know how to read still in fourth grade, why are we not teaching them phonetics instead of putting books in front of their face that they can't read nor understand the language that's being learned? One, because they don't even know what a thesaurus is or a dictionary, like so many things, right? So, it's so deep rooted. But then, like you said, what is our citizens, like, what is our society going to look like,
Yep.
these kids? And this is kind of where I was, in a discussion the other day, and somebody is like, what is it going to take for people to realize how important education is, especially like literacy? And I said, honestly, for me, envision 20, 30 years, like, what is the society going to look like? And for those that are supposed to take over our positions, that are supposed to be the people that are running, this world, and they can't even do a functional basic skill of like reading, is so important. So, and somebody is like, well, that's what AI is for. I said, well, that's terrible. You even said that because one, now you are encouraging people to be more lazy and just to basically utilize AI for that capacity. And you're taking 100% critical thinking skills away. We do not have critical thinkers that can think for themselves. And even me as a parent, I talk to my kids like, you guys follow these types of people, like this is what you want to know and learn. And so, I was talking like we're on a point where, yeah, no more YouTube for y'all. Like that's it.
Yeah.
Like no social, nothing. Like I can't, because the people that are influencing our kids, that it's not as any helpful. But coming back to
Mhm.
that literacy, I feel that it is something that we all know that needs to be fixed, but why are we not focused on it? And that's the
I
bigger
think a
question.
lot of it is because the previous generations weren't that educated as well. They
I
were more
agree.
educated than this generation currently, but then you have adults that don't like to read, people in my generation that did not like to read. It sucks because the system is like, hey, you don't have time to read. You need to pay your bills. Hey, you don't have time to read. You need to get to work. Hey, you don't need to read. You need to take care of these kids.
Yeah.
And so you're, I don't know how many people still actually read for entertainment or
Right.
read to learn. Right now on my desk, I have about 30 books. And I wish I was exaggerating. I have The Republic by Plato, just randomly. I have
Nice.
2 Bibles. I have books on discipline and behavior. Like I
Hmm.
read. I come from a
Yeah.
family of bibliophiles where we learned that reading, especially as a Black person, means
Yes.
freedom. There's a reason why they were trying to kill us if we learn to read. Because reading, knowledge
Yes.
is everything. My granddaddy said, if you want to hide something from a Black person, put it in a book.
Yeah.
And
For
so
real.
right. I'm always emphasizing to my students, specifically my Black ones, you do not have the privilege to say you don't like to read.
Right.
You don't have that. We are
Yep.
only 2 generations from slavery, my love.
Yep.
You can't say that. Get your behind in here, find a book that you like and read it. I bought my
Absolutely.
students, all of my students in all of my classes, a book from the book fair out of my own pocket and then money that people donated.
Nice.
It was a lot of money. And I did it because I wanted them to go to something that has something to do with literacy and have a good experience with it. Because when I was in school, me and my friends, family, we couldn't always get something from the book fair. We looked really sad when we couldn't get
Yeah.
anything. And
Yeah.
back then, we had R.L. Stein with Goosebumps. We had Animorphs. We
Hmm.
had Pick Something. They were
Yeah.
good books. Babysitter's Club. But the kids nowadays, they don't have anything that they can really grab hold of because now they have TikTok, they have Instagram, they have YouTube, they have, pick something. And I don't want to say it's rotting their brain because you can have apps that are
Teach.
educational,
Yeah. Mhm.
right? But like you're saying, there's nothing like a good physical in your hand, that smell of a bookstore feel
Yeah.
that gives you the opportunity to go back, read it over again. It doesn't need to be charged up. You can read it anywhere
Right.
that
That part.
they can't relate to
Yes.
because they're not used to it. And it's
Yes.
so heartbreaking. And that's
It really.
why these generations are failing the way they are. And I am terrified for what's going to happen inside the next 30 years.
Yes. Agreed. 100%. And so again, for those that are watching, and don't really feel that, like, especially as a parent and as an educator, you as an educator, just dealing with the realities of what it looks like, and being able to literally see it, but also being the person that's trying to help make a change and really trying to get these kids to understand the importance. And I struggle with that with my own kids, because even both, they've been on spring break for the last 2 weeks, and I was like, "Aren't you guys so excited to go back to school on Tuesday?" And they're both like, "Oh no, like I hate school." And so then what I do is I flip the, "Oh well, I guess you guys want to be homeschooled and just sit at home with me all day and not not have no friends and no, then they're like, no, 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 go, go back to school, but just getting that mentality. And I think this is in certain communities, I think it needs to be broken. Is the excitement over school, right? And in certain communities and certain schools, there's not a lot to be excited about, I know. But I'm speaking of more of a narrative around education that stems from home, like getting our kids like excited to want to learn about education and or be educated, and just knowing how exciting it could be to, like you said, be liberated through knowledge. And it's important. And kind of laugh at this because you do middle school, bless your soul, because I no middle school is not my jam.
Hey,
High
mom.
school, yes, I do. Listen. High school was my jam, and I tell these kids all the time, you guys want to be an adult, like, no, you don't. Like, listen, like, and so these kids think they know what they want, but one, they don't want the matured, like they don't want to mature. And then they're being influenced by the wrong people on social media, and they're falling in bad habits that are either repetitive of their parents or families, their environment, what they're used to, instead of really kind of listening to people who are like trying to say, hey, like, don't do this and do this, this. And I've thought about that. What is like one thing from your childhood where some adult was like, do this and not this, and had you been like, oh, if I should have listened? Is there anything, like one thing? Probably a whole bunch, because I have a
I
whole
feel like there's
bunch.
a lot. I feel like there's a whole bunch.
Yeah,
Um,
it's really random
Probably drinking.
enough. It's not the it's not the best thing. Yes, right. That's the thing. I think my daughter too. She's so like mouthy. She's like, why do people smoke? Like, why do they drink when they know it's just gonna kill you? And blah blah blah. I'm like, see, don't do it. And so hopefully she listens. But as soon as she takes that first drink when she's 21, I'm gonna be like, remember when you said this? And so yeah, I've done the same thing with my students. For me, I think would be money. That could be a lot of people. I wish I was just smarter with my money, but yeah, I think that's all of us, but
Yeah.
most of us. So those things. Okay, so sorry, I kind of got off
No, you're
us on the
fine.
wrong track, but let's kind of go back to what we're talking about. But basically, it's all right. It's all circular. It is all. You could talk about financial literacy. You could talk about whatever literacy, just knowing and understanding. And I think what we're both kind of getting at is that these kids don't know anything but what they hear from social media, or negative traits that are picked up by family members and things like that. So important to switch our
Well,
narrative.
speaking of that, right before you move on, I
Mm,
actually, when I go off on my class, which is very rarely and
mhm.
never out of like anger, but more out of like desperation, I tell
Yes.
them about this documentary that's out. It's called Daytona Beach Across the Bridge.
Mhm.
And it was a documentary that was made a few years ago. And a majority of the people in that video I grew up with. I went to school with, I
Mhm.
knew personally. A majority of them are either dead or in jail. And I tell my students, this is what you have to look forward to if you are not serious about your education. Now, they are smart enough to know that education from a school system is not the end all be all. I'm like, I
Right.
get that.
Yeah.
But I'm also trying to let them know the closer you get to getting higher education, be it your high school diploma, GED, associate's, bachelor's, whatever,
Yeah.
the greater chance you have of getting out of a situation that would keep you pulled down.
Yes.
And if anybody wants to go see that documentary and see the people I grew up with and where I grew up, go check it out. It's on YouTube right now. It's totally free to watch.
Absolutely. Yeah, please, and I'll have to get that link from you. I'll link it in our comments here for that, for the viewers. And I want to watch that myself. But I've had similar experiences. It's I don't come from the best community. I don't come from the worst, but there is very many places, especially systematic places around the U.S., and that could be anywhere, but really in certain key areas where we're getting like looped back into this negative
Yeah.
cycle. Share in another episode, but someone had spoken a comment that I didn't think about as a parent, but they kind of gave the rundown of a scenario. You have a black male that comes from a bad community. He doesn't do well in school. He can't read at an early age, doesn't ever catch up, doesn't graduate high school, ends up in prison with a felony, gets out, right? Has a child, then in the same community, and then puts that child back in the same school system that is no different than when he went into it. And then the cycle repeats itself, right? And we're not just blaming the school in this situation, but the school has a big key function in all of our lives, especially if you are in public
Hmm.
or charter education at homeschool, you are affected by that school environment. That is a part of your ecology, essentially, as a person. You spend majority of your childhood in an educational institution, so it is highly important, and it is something that really influences our lives, and kind of outcomes for us. And so, again, we can really hit on that importance of literacy in multiple ways, but I want to be sure to take some time to talk about the other side of what you're doing, your work with parenting, coaching, and consulting, those types of things. So why don't you run down a little bit of what you do on that side, and then I want to share some of your posts that I kind of found really intriguing.
Yes. So, parent coaching, it kind of came about when I started going viral on TikTok. A
Hmm.
lot of parents wanted my advice, and I had a lot of advice to give. So I just started coaching and giving people advice. Now, the coaching is really more consulting. I'm moving more now into coaching specifically, where I'll be holding classes very soon for that, where I'm going to be literally holding hands and taking people through how to work with their kids. But it's been a very interesting experience. A lot of people have the same issues. When you think that you don't, and you think your kid is, I don't want to, they are special, but when you think your child is special and your situation is unique, I promise
Yeah.
you it's not. There are a million other people dealing with the exact same thing you're dealing
Yeah.
with. Little Johnny and his flippant attitude and his crazy behind mouth is the same thing Janie from down the street is dealing with as well. I promise you it is. Behavior is behavior is behavior is behavior. And I try to teach the concepts of how to work with your kids so you can be creative and flexible and use those concepts across multiple disciplines. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I'm just sending you over failure. I'm gonna teach you how to fish before I fish for you.
Yeah.
So it's been one heck of a journey. I'm tired, but it's been good.
I was going to ask you, that is one of my questions, because even when I was in my administrative role, you kind of get looped into like a therapist like side that you're not even ready for. So I know, are you the therapist? You're the parent therapist now, huh?
Usually, the if it's an hour long session, the first 30 minutes will consist of them like dumping all of their trauma on me. Luckily, I got a thick skin and I have
Hmm.
down feathers because it just slides right off. I be like, baby, I
Hmm.
understand. I get it. Yes.
Yeah,
He did what? And
I
then I
love it.
say, okay, well, in you saying that, I've noticed this, and this. So let's go ahead and start dealing with this.
Yes.
So that's every session, but I love when
Yeah.
I get a message back. Somebody messaged me yesterday from about a year ago where he was like, hey, ever since you helped me out, my kids have changed so much. Thank you so much for that. And I was like, I got you.
Nice. Awesome.
So
That's so
I do it for
good.
that.
And I would do it for that too. Like, that's so great. And I love, again, the approaches that you take, right? So a lot of people don't like the gentle parenting approach. They, think it's just people being passive, allowing their kids to do whatever they want, and all of those things, right? And there's a lot of good research behind. So even I love that you show data, and like some of your posts, you're like, here's the data, here's the facts, and I'm like, yes, I love that. And so there is a lot of research into this approach of and style of parenting. Did you ever watch the show that came out, The Parent Test? Oh, there's a whole show called The Parent Test, and they put like these 10 different families, and kind of they all have different parenting styles. And they like kind of do like a documentary of all of them for like 10 weeks, and they give them these challenges, and then they kind of put them all on the episode. And I'm not endorsing, I just thought about this. And then they kind of put them up against each other on the same like themes and all these things, and basically all the families vote on who has the best outcome and approach to that scenario. I'm not going to even say who won, I won't spoil it. I remember now who it was, but there were so many different styles, from like helicopter parent to gentle parents to very strict, and you had faith-based parents, you had those that kind of lived out in the country, were like wild and free, and like new age. So it was a bunch of really interesting ones. But the gentle parenting, I think, got kind of far in that contest, and so it was really interesting to watch. one that you brought up on your social media was talking about kids saying no and how you're not going to argue with them, and not having, like, being with your discipline, that you're not hitting and things like that. So if you don't mind, I want to kind of get into the story. I know I kind of said a lot of things, but I want to tell you a story because, and this isn't dumping, this is just me sharing. The last night, right, I'm walking into my daughter's room, and it's probably like 12:30, and I'm a night owl. I'm up late anyways, but I'm trying to get them back in the pattern of going back to school on Tuesday after 2 weeks. And so she doesn't have her phone because her phone was taken from her from something else she did. And she had her tablet, but I didn't realize she brought it. She's in a loft bed, and I didn't realize she brought it up in her bed. So I'm like 12:30, like going to get a snack or something, probably last night out the fridge, and I hear her tablet on in her room. So I go in there, she's wide awake. I was like, no, give me your tablet. What are you watching? Because we were going through this thing with her not being on YouTube. So she gets like a whole attitude, like starting to like get loud and yell at me, and and I'm like, oh, who are you talking to? Like, starting to
Mm-hmm.
escalate with her. And then I'm like, oh, wait. I'm like, okay, pause. I said, you're not even, I'm like, just stop yelling. I said, because I'm taking your tablet. I said, I'm the parent. I'm the mother. I said, and I'm in charge. I said, so you can give me that. I said, you can stop asking me questions. I said, you don't waste your energy on even getting mad because you're not getting it back. So I'm gonna take that now, and you're gonna go to sleep. We're gonna have a good night, and I'm not even gonna get mad. I'm gonna get out this room. And I kind of like had to walk myself through that. And so when I rewatched that post today, and our kids telling us no, like my son does this a lot, like kind of automatically we're like no, and then I'm not going to sit there. I just look at him like, wait, what? And then he'll correct himself, right? But I think parents that like are really kind of hyper aggressive or just really want to do that power struggle and insert dominance, I see that over and over, that they lose there. I'm wondering, with you and kind of your experience, that's something with talking through the coaching and stuff, is that what you notice a lot of, the power struggle?
100%. So, oh man. Okay. So first, let me just explain that gentle parenting isn't what people make it out to be. It's really
Mhm.
because people can't read. People
Yeah.
don't read. People don't look it up. Google is free. Google is, this
That's
gentle
it.
parenting is causing all this trouble in the world. No, it's not. It's
Yeah.
not. Not even statistically. That doesn't even
Yeah.
make sense. Look it up. Google. Geez. With that
Yeah.
being said, the hardest thing that parents have when transitioning from authoritarian parenting or from permissive parenting is self-regulation. A lot of people do not know how to self-regulate because guess what? They've never been taught. Why have they never been taught? Because their parents didn't know how to do it. They just had to learn to suppress their emotions, which
Yeah.
is why alcoholism and substance abuse is at an all-time high. I need people to understand this.
Yes,
It's
absolutely.
trauma,
Yep.
and they swear and up and down that it's not. Baby, I can look at your behavior for like 20 seconds and tell you all the trauma that you have. It's not hard. It's following a pattern. Just
Absolutely.
follow the line. But what we see is a lot of parents still have their egos, and a lot of them have not learned how to shut off their limbic system or their sympathetic nervous system. So as soon as they're met with something that contradicts them or challenges their autonomy or their authority, they immediately see it as a challenge or
Yeah.
a threat. Literally, a
Hmm.
threat is the best term I can use. This is a child that does not have the fine motor control to really do anything. This
Hmm.
is a child that does not pose much of a danger to you. This is a child that still probably doesn't really know how to wipe their butt good, but you're feeling so angry at this child. And it happens to the best of us because there's been many a day where I've wanted to grab one of my students and yeet them across the campus like a javelin. Absolutely. And then
Yeah.
I realized, wait, Gabe, you are 6'8".
Oh,
You're a
wow.
martial artist. You are very strong. You will
Yeah.
hurt this child.
Yep.
For that reason,
Good thought. Good process.
I calmed myself down.
Right.
I had a student. I love this student. One of my favorites. This boy, I told him to put his phone up. He didn't want to put it up. So I
Hmm.
said, "Come stand over here." He said, "No, why?" I'm sorry. Did you just question what I said?
All right.
My ego was challenged. because his ego was challenged because I called him out in front of the entire class.
Yeah.
I was in the wrong and he was in the wrong. But as the adult, I have to be able to see his perspective and my perspective, and everybody else's perspective, and I have to manage my emotions. Now,
Mhm.
did I lose my mind? Oh, absolutely. What did it? What set me off? Because I was fine up until he said this. He said, "No, tell me why." And then as I went to explain it, he said, "No, stop." And I was like,
No. Heck no. What? Oh
but what
no.
happened
Yeah.
there, which is really, I want people to see it. The
Mhm.
person that was about to come out wasn't me, it was my dad. My dad would have probably slapped me to the other side of the galaxy if I had ever said something like that to him. And
Mhm.
so what rose out of me was my dad's reaction, something that had been modeled to me wanting to do that to him would not have worked. Because I knew it wasn't going to work and it would have escalated to a place I did not want it to go, I said, "Get out of my face." I had campus advisor take him away
Yeah.
because I was up there. I was
Mhm.
already up there,
Mhm.
gone. So many parents deal with the same issue. They don't know how to self-regulate. My first class is teaching parents how to self-regulate, how to deal
Absolutely.
with their inner child so they can learn when you're getting triggered, how to function when you're being triggered, and how to come off of that triggered state. And a lot of that has to come with taking a step back and critically thinking about your environment. You
Yep.
can't work with your kid. You cannot teach your kid a thing if you are yourself in a heightened state of emotional distress. You
Absolutely.
cannot do it.
Absolutely.
So teaching kids how to self-regulate, or teaching parents how to self-regulate, is the first part, the key to teaching kids how to self-regulate. But that can only
Absolutely.
happen when you're dealing with how your parents raised you, when you're learning proper techniques and exercises and practicing them daily,
Yeah.
because it's a skill issue, until you get to the point where you're mastering it and you're able to apply it when you need to. Now, it's not to say it's never
Absolutely.
going to come out, because it will, but at least you know how to control it. And it's better for you to have control over it than for it to have a control over you, because the kids ain't the issue. It's you that's the issue.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I 100% agree. And I think that's been so as okay, so I was with my children's father, we were married and then divorced. So I think something that I've dealt with my ex-husband and co-parenting, as well as a past relationship I was in for about 3 years, I always had the "you're too soft on them" and this and that, right? And so for me, I do kind of think about my childhood, like my life in my household was always very loud and very chaotic and very
Mhm.
noisy, and like, was the discipline was hitting and things like that. And not, super excessive abusive, but there was that in our family, and I didn't like that. And even to this day, like if someone's playing around or whatever, like touching my face, like I don't like that at all. And so it's like a kind of like a trigger, right? So I kind of think like moving forward, and when I started having my own kids, like I don't like putting my hands on my kids, but it's not even about touching them or hitting them. It's more of like, I don't like escalating. I don't like putting, unless I'm singing like in a choir, I don't like putting my voice past a certain pitch or volume. I'm very kind of like leveled and monotone. Like I don't like to be like super loud all the time, unless I'm playing, playing around. But so
Mhm.
to yell and to change like my whole, I'm a spiritual person, but like my whole aura, and like just to get out of being in a calm, peaceful environment to escalate because I'm arguing with my 8-year-old. Like I'm not about to
Mhm.
argue with you. Some stuff I just let go in one ear out the other. And he said, "What? Oh, I heard him." And we'll be having a conversation about that in a little bit. But I'm not about to stop what I'm doing to argue with him and then get mad at that. I'm kind of
Yeah.
way past that. Even dealing with people in general, like I don't care to escalate. Like that's cool. So I kind of treat my kids the same. I said, but we're going to talk about it. And so you gave a really good example of a student in one of your posts, of a student kind of throwing a tantrum and dumping supplies all over the floor. And I've dealt with this with my 8-year-old. He's autistic, and not to say this is the reasoning for all his behavior, right? For him being on the spectrum, but a lot of that does come, his aggression and things does stem through his processing of his emotions and behavior. So he used to kind of flip his whole room upside down in the process of a meltdown, and so I'm not going to go in there and spank him. I'm not going to go in there and scream at him while he's already escalated. I'm not going to go in there and try to reason with him when he's nowhere able to access that part of his brain. And so let him finish what he's doing. And then, okay, you've calmed down. Now we're going to talk about what just happened. Want to know why you had that, what led it to that? Why did we escalate? What were you feeling? Up with some resolutions and some suggestions and talk about it, right? And then, yeah, now we're going to clean. I'm at the point now, I don't help him clean. You're going to clean. You let me know when it's done and you can come out and get your stuff back or whatever it is. But I've had so much challenge, with men in my life that are like, you're just letting him, you should have given him, spanked him. You should have did it. And I'm like, no, that's not how I parent. And so if that's going to be a problem for you, I guess like we're just going to agree to disagree, because I choose not to be angry with my
Absolutely.
kids.
I posted a video recently of a kid who was screaming. He was playing baseball and his brother hit the ball too far and it went into another yard. And the kid started screaming. He lost control because, one, he's like maybe 8. 2, the ball went really far and he probably thinks he can't get it back in his short-term thinking. That's how
Yeah.
he is.
Yeah.
And the dad comes up, cool as a cucumber, just grabs him by the head, holds him for a little bit, helps co-regulate him, right?
Yeah.
Everybody in my comments, oh, that was too much. He should have whipped this behind. That's crazy. You got to tell him that that's not appropriate. Baby, he is a child. He is a baby. He does not have the ability to control his emotions the same way an adult would. I can't even say that what he did was inappropriate. He was just sad. Imagine. And I think adults also forget that emotions can be in ratio, right?
Yeah.
So like, I would scream like that if somebody close to me died.
Right.
To him, he screams like that because something that important to him has gone away. He doesn't have a context of death. He doesn't have a context of something like the same thing happening to me. But in his limited experience, that holds the same weight as somebody dying holds to me.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of parents understand that or can accept that, but that's the reality. To him, his small world of very limited ownership, something that he loved and owned, is gone. And so he's frustrated by it, and that's how he lets it out. Now, I love what you said. You didn't spank him. You didn't even, I don't even think you probably got mad at him. You just said, all right, what were you upset about? What did you feel? What was triggering it? So that they can identify their emotions. They can identify when they're getting upset, and then they can know what to do next time. Teaching self-regulation to kids is paramount for parenting. Then the consequences, clean it up. And I think I also need people to understand that sometimes your environment is a reflection of your mind. And a lot of times, just what if kids, when they're throwing stuff on the floor, they're trying to manifest outwardly what they're feeling internally. And that's a communication that we're missing. Maybe when they're throwing stuff on the floor and freaking out, it's because in their mind, their emotions are freaking out. And this is a representation of the chaos that they're experiencing. Imagine if you help them figure out how to sort the mess out.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's and I love how you're talking about self-regulation, because that's a big topic in schools too. Like, people just expect these kids to be 100% behaved at school and be able to self-regulate, but you as the adult are not self-regulated. Like, how can you ask from a child if you can't even model yourself to be self-regulated? That comes from a parent lens and a teaching lens. And I'm not perfect. I've had to, as a educator and as a parent, kind of adjust the way that I approach certain things, recognizing even with my own children that I have to take a different approach. So I started really kind of leaning more in the gentle parenting, or just more of like, I'm not going to let, you guys aren't about to bother me. Like, and I think that's just what it is. Like, don't let them win that battle. And I was the same way with my my students when I even taught high school. Like, the girls, like, some of these students like to challenge me. And I would say, well, we're not about to do this today. Like, we're going to, and I'll be petty with you but I bet you I'll win. Like, it's like, but we're not going to do this. Let's just do what we're here to do. And let's have let's get going. And I'm kind of the same with my kids. Like, you have to be, because because then it's not about being a power struggle. They know that I'm the adult. They know that I'm the parent. They know that I can take things from them. But why do I have to be aggressive and mean about it? Or even attack them emotionally if it's not physically, you know, and I don't like any of that. So it's like, I'm going to reason with you because, again, we want our kids to have critical thinking skills. We want them to be able to regulate their emotions and identify their emotions. So we'll have these conversations and talk about it, but I'm not going to escalate with you because I just don't have the energy for
And
it
I tell my
anymore.
students all the time, like, look, I'm not your enemy. I'm not
Yeah.
like I had one student, she came into class and she was doing something crazy and I'm telling her to stop. And she like a million, like
Mm-hmm.
already there. And I'm like, whoa, baby, go take a walk. Go take a walk. Just walk. And she didn't come back. I was fine with that. I'm not going to sit here and argue. I'm not going to sit here and
Yeah.
give you more than you're upset. It has nothing to do with me.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why you're upset when I have not said anything to you other than stop flipping a bottle
Yeah.
has nothing to do with me. You're mad about something else. That is perfectly okay. Go handle
Mm-hmm.
that out there. Go out there and handle that.
Right.
And that there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not going to argue with you.
Exactly. Definitely. And that's, you know, again, that's an approach. That's some things that they want to do. I kind of was on the, I don't know, I think I like that type of challenge because I'll sit there and what are you doing? Like what? And, you know, kind of play. Because my kids, they wanted to leave. Like they wanted to leave my classroom. So I'm like, yeah, y'all not going nowhere. Like I'm not sending you home. Like you're going to sit down and learn today. You know what I mean? So it's so
Ooh,
funny. These kids, like
better than me.
they no, I know it's sometimes it wasn't worth it, but sometimes, you know, they kind of came through like, and I was known as the cool, the fun teacher, but they
Mhm.
also like, she doesn't play, like
Yeah.
you try to do something to her or like try to disrupt the class, like, she's not playing
But
with
they
you
love
guys.
those kind of teachers.
Yeah.
They don't know.
Yeah.
These kids don't leave me alone. I will sit here and
Mhm.
reprimand them. I'll
Yep.
be like, child, if you don't shut up, I'm gonna staple your lips closed. They'll
Yeah.
just laugh and
Yeah.
then just I was
But
being serious.
yeah,
Shush.
pretty much, and right, but they love it, and that's that kind of and we won't get too far into that today, but that goes into relationship building and just the importance of understanding the dynamic between you and your students, you know, you being able to be playful with them and kind of in ways that they will engage with you, but then
With boundaries.
with boundaries, absolutely, absolutely, and there is like certain, you know, certain things, and for me as a high school teacher, you know, kids wanted to talk to me about certain stuff. I said we can stop it here, but I'm like, I'll talk to you anything up to here, but after that, no, you gotta, you know, that's out of my world. But
Right.
you know, it's important to be able to establish again those relationships, and then that way it can help build towards lessening those behavioral issues, you know, at your school or in your classroom. But again, to your parents, and as parents, I take time to build relationship with my kids, and be, you know, honest and have like conversations with them about like real life stuff, even though that they're little. And a lot of people kind of talk about not having enough time to do it in the day. And for me, drop offs, like our car rides, we have 30-minute into the city and out for school drop off and pick up. And that's the time I talk to my kids, you know, how was school? How
Mhm.
was this? Like what, you know, and joke around about things that they're embarrassed about at school, you know, kind of those types of things. So relationship building super important. So before, we're already 52 minutes in, which is great. So before we kind of close out today, are there any like kind of last minute comments that you want to make, or even I like to ask my guests, like, what is something that is important that you think educators or parents or both should be focusing on kind of in this moment to help some of these things that we've discussed today?
Actually, what you said, specifically relationship building, and from a genuine place. The one thing I cherish more than anything else in the world are things that my students give me. I have on my desk cards. I have a necklace that I got from one student. I keep things around that my students give me because I
Yeah.
value them, because we should
Yeah.
be valuing these kids.
Mm.
They're choosing to allow us into their world. Be happy to go into their world. Be patient while they try to figure out how to understand our world.
Yes.
And more than anything, be especially kind to children that are minorities, specifically Black and brown kids,
Hmm.
because there's so much stacked up against them. No matter what your beliefs are, whether you believe that they are, I promise you they are. And taking time to really get to know them for them,
Yeah.
recognizing the culture that we come from, recognizing what is culturally acceptable will help so much more with trying to get that child to the next level than
Absolutely.
just being a teacher, because we're not just teachers. We are parents. We are nurses. We are therapists. We are all of them all in one,
Yes.
even to the other parents.
Mhm.
So with teachers, 100% do those things. With parents, recognize that these children, though they are a part of you, they are not you. Though they came from you, they are not you. They have their own thoughts, wills, emotions, hobbies, interests, everything. They are different.
Yes.
And even though you may see who they are, there's a part of them that you don't see. So
Yeah.
spend more time trying to find out who they really are, and spend more time trying to understand who you are now that you have them, because now you've evolved from a single person to a parent. And so your roles change.
Yes, absolutely. You got me like a little emotional. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much, Gabriel. I really appreciate that. Can you please remind everybody where we can find you, and that they can follow you and get your resources?
Yes, you can find me on all of social medias at the Indomitable Black Man. So underscore Indomitable underscore Black Man. TikTok, if it doesn't pass Senate, you'll see me for another 6 months. If they do pass it, then you got 6 months to follow me on TikTok. But Instagram, YouTube, you can find me there.
Got you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I'll be sure to link those down in the comments or the chat below. And please like, comment, and share myself, Kylie Elizabeth, the virtuoso editor, and Gabriel Hannans, the Indomitable Black Man. And so thank you so much again, Gabriel. And thank you guys for watching. And you guys all have a great night.